In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 habits that long-term Mucusless Diet Healing System practitioners often adhere to. Stay tuned. I'm Professor Spira, and I've practiced the Mucusless Diet Healing System for over 18 years, and I've helped thousands of people transform their lives using the methods found in this great system. And today I want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that long-term practitioners, people that have practiced the diet 15 plus years, up to 40 years, 50 years, long-term practitioners and successful practitioners of the Mucusless diet, what do they do? What are some daily habits that they have? We're going to talk about 3 daily habits and explore those ideas. And the benefits that you can get from this are incredible because there's so much wisdom in the daily habits of long-term Mucusless diet practitioners. That's how I learned. I was able to hang out with Brother Air and other members of the Mucusless Diet Healing System community in Cincinnati, Ohio, back when I started. And by witnessing and seeing the day-to-day, it brought it to life. It wasn't just some words on a book or some concepts. It was, this is how people are really living, and this is what it looks like, this is what it feels like. And so I was able to hone in on that and really help me understand all about this process, all about practicing the Mucusless Diet Healing System. So let's start getting into this. Habit number 1, anytime you eat mucus, almost anytime you eat mucus, you're going to want to have it with the vegetable meal and a really big salad. So this is a habit that I incorporated, where, as you know, if you've read the Mucusless Diet Healing System book, and if you haven't, I encourage you to do so right now. Go get that book and read it. But you'll know that Mucusless Diet Healing System doesn't mean that you just stop eating all mucus immediately. That's not what it's about. It's not a get off of all mucus and be mucus-free in a couple days type of thing. It is a methodical system that takes place over time, that takes place over years. And one of the best things that you can do is, when you are eating certain mucus-forming foods, is to make sure you always eat it with a big salad. For instance, something that helped me tremendously in the early days of practicing the Mucusless diet was wheat spaghetti. Now, I know, just settle down if you are have gluten sensitivity, or you are already beyond that or whatever. There's a lot more options now. There are some decent gluten-free options. I want to try not to get too in the weeds of the actual items, just giving you an example of what I did. And we didn't have the quinoa spaghetti and rice spaghetti. We didn't have all this gluten-free stuff that's come out in these different kinds of, it was wheat spaghetti, and that was it. You eat wheat spaghetti, or you had the other stuff, the white flour spaghetti. And so I noticed that this wheat spaghetti had eliminated a lot better than the other stuff, meaning it digested well and it went through my system without leaving behind as much slime residue. But I always had to have it with a big salad and usually some kind of steamed vegetables. I would make an onion saute with, I had some broccoli, some collard greens, or block broccoli, and cabbage was really, I was real big into cabbage. It's the steamed cabbage or the stewed cabbage. And so that combination allowed for that food to go through my system and kind of push that spaghetti through without leaving behind a big trail of slime residue. So that's one example. There's many other examples in terms of the kinds of things that you can have with your meal when you're transitioning, especially in the early days. It's all about combining it. If you eat something like that, but you have no salad, you have no steamed vegetables, then you are going to have problems. That stuff is not going to eliminate in the way that it should. So that is habit number 1, always having a big salad with your mucus. Now, The little addendum I'll make to this, there are some cases, such as with roasted nuts. If you have, and I'll say roasted nuts as opposed to the soaked nuts, because that's sort of a different thing. You would use those a little differently in that type of vein. But if you're dealing with something like the roasted nuts, as I did in the early days, you always put that with dried fruit, preferably something like raisins, or for me, dates. Some people try to do the nuts and dates. That's never really worked for me as well, because the dates are real sweet, but it didn't kind of get that binding effect, at least for me, that you want. But with raisins, that's the number one for me. Some type of nuts, and I'm not real discerning in terms of getting into, oh, well, this is a legume and this is a that. It's like, yeah, we're talking. Can we make it simple? Can we just be simple? Because it's about how they eliminate. You can categorize all these things based on how they eliminate. And for me, cashew, a peanut, an almond, they all eliminate relatively similarly. And so I don't need to get into like, well, this is a legume and this is like, what's that mean? You're not supposed to have this or that. Let's just call them nuts for now. If we can be a little bit more simple and just kind of keep it, keep everything 100. But you don't want to eat those things by themselves. If you can avoid it, you want to have it with some kind of dried fruit, preferably, like I said, the raisins is what I always would do. So that's step number one, or habit number one. Habit number two is some form of daily breath work. All of the long-term Mucusless Diet Healing System practitioners that I know practice some kind of yoga, some kind of science of breath, something. Now, we don't all do the same stuff. Some people might be inspired by, for instance, the Yogi Ramayaka book that Brother Air gets into. Sister Cora does she has her own yoga stuff. She does her thing. She's got Takora yoga. I mean, she's got her own yoga discipline. Me, I do things from Kriya yoga. There's a few things I took from Wim Hof. I just sort of absorb things over the years and I try them out, and if they work and if it's good for me, I incorporate it into my breath work, my daily breath work practice. But this is very important. The science of breath goes hand in hand with the Mucusless Diet Healing System, and when you want to increase your results and kind of amplify, take things to the next level, then some kind of science of breath is important. Stretching, the physical fitness aspect of it, the body movement. I could sort of also add those maybe as an addendum to this, because that's incredibly important as well. But first and foremost, that breath, and making sure you try to be someplace where you have the freshest air possible. If you have to be inside because it's super cold outside, you don't want to necessarily breathe that real cold air in, then make sure that the room isn't stagnant, the air isn't stagnant, the air's moving a little bit. But this is so important. This is the fundamental food and sustenance of the human body is air, is the breathing process. And so this is important. It should be very important. And I can tell, and I'm not perfect. There's some days I won't, for whatever reason, I won't do my breath work. I won't get it in. I get up late. I have obligations or something. So I'll miss a day. But the thing is, if I miss it, I feel it. It's just like if I miss a meal that I should have had and I'm not fasting, and I miss a meal, then there's negative consequences of that. I feel that. And so this is something you're really going to want to incorporate. And I put this in this video because it's not something that we always talk about, so it's not an obvious habit, because there's some people that know us would probably do a list of the things you'll think that we'll say, but I wanted to throw this one in there because it's not always talked about, primarily because we all do our own thing. We don't have a codified breath work and yoga practice that all Mucusless diet practitioners are supposed to do. This is something that everybody, at least up to this point, has explores what works for them and develops their own practice, or follows their own breath work. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's really about what inspires you. To me, there's not one way that's better than all other ways. It's if there's a particular person that you like to follow that does yoga, if they're inspiring you to do it every day, then even if their method, even if maybe somebody else would consider their method not to be the greatest method in the world, it's better than the one that you wouldn't be doing because that person wouldn't inspire you to do it. If you get what I'm saying. Go where the inspiration is. Go where the inspiration is, but don't think that that's the best and only way. It's the best way is the one that you'll do. The one that you'll be inspired to do every day. So do your search, find what fits well for you, and get into it. Science of breath. Habit number 3, a lot of you are gonna know what I'm probably gonna say. Habit number 3 is lemon juice and distilled water enemas. And the lemon juice enema is something that I would say was really, Brother Air definitely pioneered and took that to levels that no one had really been into. In the Mucusless Diet book, if there's anything that, as he will say, if there's anything that we would deserve and he would deserve credit for contributing and just is the lemon juice and distilled water enema practice and doing it on a daily basis. Now, he does it on a daily basis and has done it on a daily basis for over 40 years. But, or maybe a little less than the 40, because I think in his early days, he didn't do it yet for the first several years. He did enemas, but I don't think he did he started to incorporate the daily lemon juice enemas until a little bit later in his transition. So that's something that you can think about as well. But for at least over 30 years, he's been doing them regularly. A lot of people then say, well, they have all kinds of objections and say, well, he's relying on them, this and that. He always has natural bowel movements. And what I tell people when I'm working with them, if you don't have natural bowel movements, then wait until you have a natural bowel movement and then do your enema. And because you should be having natural bowel movements. I always do. I get in that habit. And at this point, for me, it's like a Pavlovian kind of response where once I'm preparing my enema stuff, I immediately start to it's the time to go. I'll have an elimination and then have my enema. And so that is what you want to do. And you can do them in the morning. I mean, again, do it whenever it's going to fit well for you. In the early days of my practice, I would do it twice a day. I'd do it in the morning and in the evening, or sometimes I would only do it in the evening before bed. Eric remarks about that, but also the morning can be good. It's just do it. It's just one of those things. Now, I will say for me, I went through some things physiologically in my own personal case where I backed them down a little bit. So I did them every day for, I would say, probably 12 or 13 years on that path. Then I had some physiological changes and some things that happened, and I decided, okay, I need to rein this in a little bit and just do a little bit less. And I talk a little bit about this in my book, Spira Speaks, where I kind of get into this. And this is something that, this is the kind of stuff that we'll talk about in the, more in our private membership group that will, that should be rolling. If you want more information about that, check out mucusfreelife.com and take a look at the membership tab. But the point is that everybody's situation is going to be a little different. But regardless, that regular usage just over time to irrigate that colon, get out that residue, loosen it up, keep it moving. It's so important. And that's one of the things that will keep you keep you in the game, that will keep these things moving, keep your cravings down, because the cravings basically come up as this stuff is eliminating from your system. So if you want to keep them down, do that. You definitely want to be doing some kind of lemon juice, distilled water enemas. And so that's my 3 for this. And I'm thinking, should I give you a bonus? A bonus habit would be some form of fasting, some people fast once a week, some people fast once a month. In the case of Brother Air, he fasts most of the time, but I'm talking about Arnold Ehret's recommended fasting. And his initial, the reason it's called rational fasting is because it's very rational. It's not extreme, his recommendations. And so he recommends people start with a 1-day fast, start with a 3 to 5 day fast. You start easy and then move on from there. So I will leave you with that. Read in the Mucusless Diet book and the book Rational Fasting. Check out the fasting discussions. In my book Spira Speaks, we have a lot of information about that. If you really want to learn this stuff and you don't want to mess around in the bushes and you really want to get all this stuff down, then I encourage you to enroll in my e-course, Mucusless Diet Healing System e-course. It's an 8-week long course. Go through it. If you do what's asked of you, take the quizzes, read all the material, go through the lessons, you will know more about the Mucusless diet. You'll know more about naturopathy than a lot of people that call themselves naturopaths. And so you're going to know more practical information that'll help you. And if you work with people, you can help them immediately, so without messing around. Very important methodology and technology that we have in this e-course that's a part of the Mucusless Diet Healing System. So that said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoyed making this. And if you would, hit that like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. And if you would, right here, there's another video that I made specifically for you. I want you to click this box right here and enjoy this other video. And I'm going to see you over there.